Hi, this is Reed Nelson talking about authority in churches. That's probably the last thing you think of when you're in a church that's facing some kind of transition or change. But the idea that we know who we're going to obey, when we're going to obey, what to do, at what time to do it, is actually one of the most problematic things in religious life. If you have a regular capitalistic organization where one person or a number of stockholders own title to the organization, you typically will obey because, well, they own the organization, they're paying me, and so I'm going to do what they say. But in churches, you're really there as a rule, at least in the last 3 or 4 generations. You're there because of something you feel, some dedication that you feel, some experience you've had. And so there's no real paycheck and there's no real source of external authority to tell you what to do. For that reason, you will see this happening in most churches. There'll be an initial founder or founding group. Usually initial founder had a new vision, is quite charismatic, a very strong personality, attracts people, has had an impressive religious experience. And people will tend to be attracted to and form a circle around this charismatic leader. As the church grows, the circle gets wider and wider and wider, and the contact with the charismatic leader, which people savor, which draws them to church, it becomes weakened and diluted to the point where the leader is no longer the main attraction. Or even that initial group that had shared that common charismatic experience, they're not as solid as they used to. Of course, when this leader becomes a pastor and eventually retires or dies, then you have a big crisis because the center falls out, and the big question is what is left. According to Max Weber, the German sociologist, one of 2 things will happen. Either you will have a group of people who are close to the leader or who are in the first generation who will start to tell stories and remember things. I remember when he said this. I remember this meeting when that happened. I remember we had a prayer meeting and this experience happened. And the memories of people form the basis of traditions which then are used to form the beliefs and to justify the way things are done in the second generation. Tradition is basically about time. How long have we been doing it this way? And if we can prove that we've been doing it that way for a long time, then it becomes legitimate to do. The third kind of authority you can have is rational legal authority. We write everything down, usually based on the charismatic vision or these experiences that we had, and we think about these, and sometimes we even build seminaries or other theological edifices for figuring out exactly how we do this and what we felt and what we mean, and write it down clearly and put it down in writing. In any event, at some point, these traditions and this charisma is turned into some kind of written statement about which there can be very little doubt. Oh yeah, we've got the 10 Commandments written here. We have the church bylaws written here, and so we know what to do. This process by which the initial otherworldly experience gets kind of sorted out and turned into something predictable and repeatable, they would call the routinization of charisma. I know it's a fancy word. It means you take charisma and you turn it into something routine. That definitely has to happen in any church at some point in its history. And the moment at which charisma, the initial charismatic experience, is becoming routinized, is one of the most difficult and one of the most important phases in a church's life. If you get that right, you have a good basis for the church continuing and developing and building on a legacy. If you don't get that right, and if you aren't able to handle the conflict that inevitably arises when that happens, the likelihood that the church will either split or die, or split and die, is pretty heavy, pretty likely. Hope those are useful ideas. Hope that your church is going well. And when it faces those inevitable traumas and difficulties that come with changes, that things will go well for you.